Thank you for stopping by the store. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Your album Morning in America and Dreaming in Color, produced by Jake One, dropped September 18th. In a time where the paradigm of swag over substance reigns supreme, it appears that you created an album that looks into the American political and socio-economic situation with a keen and truthful eye. Tell us a little bit about the album.
Well, this album is, like you said, produced entirely by Jake One, and it's really it's a very social political album. I don't like to use the word political because political in this modern time has come to mean the back and forth kind of wrestling match, football match between the Republicans on the right and the Democrats on the left, and it's not about that. But what politics really means is to have concern for what goes on in public life, how life is lived by the masses of people, as a group, as a community, as families, as neighborhoods. It takes the focus off of just being on ourselves, and it makes us think and concentrate and care about what's going on in our communities, in our world. So it's political in that sense, and it's really two parts. The first part, the Morning in America part, is to really encourage us to disrupt our sleepwalking about how bad things really are, how there's so much pain and struggle and hurt, and despair and death in our society. And I think that all of us are experiencing it to a certain degree, but because it's not being talked about on a mass scale, we talk about the economy, but we don't really talk about, the broader effects of that. And so we feel like as individuals we're doing bad and somehow we failed as individuals. And the reality is that the people who are engineering our society have failed us. So Morning in America is for us to be open and honest and vocal and critical of where things are at. And then the Dreaming in Color side is the reimagining of what our society could look like if we were what we said we are, if we really strive to be what we're supposed to be in this American project and in this world. And I think that because of how bad things are, the people who have been suffering, the people who have been privileged and who have been, had this idea of entitlement, this sense of entitlement, they've fallen into poverty, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their homes, they're in bankruptcy, they're in despair now. And so they are candidates to get in the struggle now where they never were before. And so that's where we have Morning in America that causes Dreaming in Color. Well, Occupy as a general concept basically was people coming together to create a physical space, but then also a conversation around how do common people, everyday people, work and strategize to put our hands on what's going on, to disrupt the theft and rob of the people, of the common people, on the part of the elites. How do common people take more control over the way that life is lived and the way that these huge forces interact with the masses. There's the idea that, in 2008, we sent the brightest leader to the biggest position in the world. And we have still yet to see the type of progress that we sent him there for. You could talk for days and argue and debate over why that is, but the reality is that just electing people is not going to make this world what we know it should be. It's not going to fix the problems that we're facing. It's going to require common everyday people to put our hands on things and disrupt the program a little bit, and demand for things to be better. Not ask or not send people to represent us, but to demand it. And so Occupy created that space to have that conversation. Out of Occupy grew a lot of different arms. In Minneapolis and in Minnesota in particular, we have Occupy Homes, which has brought neighbors together to stand up for families who have been unjustly kicked out of their homes by their banks, who gave them bad loans on purpose, and then quickly and quietly, after taking 10, 15, 20 years of payments from them, take their house, throw them in the street, keep the payments, sell the house, and make money off of somebody's life being destroyed. And so, you know, common people getting involved in that, neighbors getting involved, put pressure on the banks, put pressure on the law enforcement to not go do the bidding of the banks and throw people out on the street when they haven't had their day in court. And that movement, I've seen people come together from all walks of life, and homes be saved, families be saved. And there's something bigger at stake, that this is happening around the country, where sometimes we get to the point where letter writing and asking the authorities doesn't work, and the police come to take a home, and then we physically defend that home. You say, if you want to take these people's home from them, you got to arrest all 30 of us. And most of the time they don't. A couple times they did. I was one of 37 people that got arrested, you know, defending a Mexican-American family's home. And, you know, but these families are winning their homes. And from it happening around the country, there's a bigger movement starting to force banks and legislators to rework the way that banks have to work with families. So the banks actually have to negotiate with families on good faith and try to keep people who are working and trying to stay in their home, keep them in their home rather than stealing from them. The biggest MCs in my life, and as an MC, these were the biggest individuals in my life, were at first Melly Mel, Slick Rick, and Run DMC in the mid-'80s when I was a little kid, 6, 7 years old. In the late 80s when I got closer to being a teenager, it was Chuck D, Rakim, KRS-One, and Ice Cube. You know, and then I'm still influenced. I think any MC, no matter who they are, that says they're not influenced by Jay-Z is a liar. And I think he's the best to ever do it. It's not popular to say that, but God forbid he pass away, everybody would admit that. You know what I mean? That he's the best at all around in terms of doing styles, you know, longevity, different topics. Anybody that doesn't see that, I think they're either lying or they're not listening carefully enough. And the one thing that he used to, years ago, the one thing that I would take away from him and I couldn't give it to him was that he wasn't a good live performer back in the day. But as soon as he started working with Questlove, you know, in the early 2000s, he became a great live performer. He's one of the best live performers now. So all around, it's Jay-Z. It has to be. But I'm influenced a lot by my friends' Atmosphere. You know, they basically are the ones that created our lane of music. Atmosphere, Merce, and the Living Legends crew out here in LA. You know, I would say that Hieroglyphics had a lot to do with that. I would say that, you know, Project Blowed had a whole lot to do with that. All of those dudes, some of the most incredible artists ever. You know, that on the rap side. And, you know, even kids like, you know, I listen to Kendrick Lamar. I learned from him. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's another LA dude. In terms of graffiti artists, man, I think, you know, I'm legally blind, so like I can't see that well, you know what I mean? And I've been more inspired by the stories of graffiti artists than I have by their actual art. You know what I mean? Just because I don't relate to things visually. But the idea of, you know, this like age-old tradition of people writing on the walls and creating art on the walls that tell what's really going on with the people and showing the brilliance that really exists in oppressed people that the world looks at like you're nothing, you know. It's like changed the perception of people, I think, a lot. And that really is the undying spirit of what hip-hop is about. In terms of the b-boying side, you know, Rocksteady crew, you know, the poppers and lockers out here, you know, the culture in general. But I still, you know, I still love the Rocksteady crew. I still love Crazy Legs and Wiggles and, you know, God Bless Frosty Freeze and, you know, Popmaster Fable is a dear friend of mine. You know, so those are my main dudes. DJ-wise, obviously, Grandmaster Flash and Jam Master Jay and, you know, all of them on up through Premier, you know, on up through the X-Men, the Beat Junkies, you know, the same ones everybody is. Yeah. I think hip-hop's in a great place. I think that, you know, we had a time where there was a huge divide. There was a huge separation in the hip-hop world in terms of underground and mainstream. Mainstream had to talk about certain 4 subjects. You know, they were stuck talking about only lifestyle stuff. You know, material things, sex, getting high. Like, they had to talk about only lifestyle stuff. And in the underground, you know, we were talking about just the art of rapping. We were talking about conscious stuff, you know, all that kind of thing. And there was a huge separation. The reason why I love Kendrick so much, and I think it comes from Kanye. I think Kanye West was the first one. Not the first one, but he's the most influential one that really put guys like Kendrick onto this idea that you can talk about your lifestyle and you could be a dude living life that likes nice things and likes to have fun and likes to enjoy, you know, fly shit. But then also your consciousness is in there too. Because most of us are some combination, you know. So rather than, you know, underground conscious dudes having to pretend that we don't like kicks or we don't like watches or we don't like cars or, you know what I'm saying? You know how Dilla was always like talking about the fact that he loved jewelry and people were like, I can't believe that you're supposed to be conscious. Like, man, I just make music. Just Common loves rapping on my music, but I like fly shit too, you know. You know, so that, you know, they've opened up a lane so that Rick Ross can talk about Tears of Joy. And, you know, it's all integrated now, which is dope. That's as it should be. Crit, Kendrick, Schoolboy Q. There's a brother from out here, Bamboo, that is amazing, incredible. Homeboy Sandman, who's actually on tour with me right now, is one of my favorites. I would say Bamboo and Homeboy Sandman are like up and coming guys that I just love. You know what I'm saying? Brother Jasiri X, out of Pittsburgh. I love him. There's a crew called the Originators from Colorado that they're going to be joining my tour soon. It's kind of like a young scene or like circuit of like young Muslim kids that are listening to hip hop created by Muslims, and the Reminders are like the most loved in that scene. But their music is universal and they can speak to everybody. It's a husband and wife, and they're like really beautiful, especially live, you know. So there's a lot of great things going on. You know, there's a lot of women getting on the mic now. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you got the cat Jean Grey and Invincible and Psalm 1 and, you know, all these people, but there's a lot of young girls that are rapping their asses off and that are not overly sexed and not overly masculine, and you know what I mean? I still love Lady Luck, man. I feel like Lady Luck is the shit. Yeah. Album September 18th, Morning America Dreaming in Color. It's available everywhere. I like it best when people order from us because we have a retail store in Minneapolis. Real similar to you. We're talking about the way that Originators started. Just, you know, a dude or a small, close-knit group of people that just love the culture so much that they want an opportunity to live the culture, make a living off, you know, not, you know, rape the culture, but make a honest living off of it, you know, dealing with it, and then also provide a service. You know, what you guys do is a service. It's a service to the community, so that we get to celebrate the people that you know put on a shirt, rather than just wearing a band shirt. You know what I mean? A creative way to do it. But then also it does a service to the guys that you put on the shirt. You know what I mean? They're like, you know, who else was making a Love Bug Starsky shirt? And Love Bug Starsky should absolutely have a shirt. You know what I mean? We did the same thing with Rhyme Series, where we're a record label. We're a community radio show. We're a record store. In the record store, we do open mics and we do, you know, producer workshops. You know, so somebody like Jake One, you know, will come in and sit down and, you know, bring the ASR and just show everybody, this is how I make my beats. This is exactly how I do it. This is how I EQ my drums. This is what I do. And so a 13-year-old kid that wants to be a producer can actually see that, you know. So I like when people order the albums direct from our store, but it's on iTunes, it's in Best Buy, and it's everywhere you can get music.
Last thing, can you just give us a drop for the Originators and theoriginators.com?
Sir, this is Brother Ali, and I'm right here where hip hop lives, the Originators, Originator Store, and Originators.com. Stay right here.